Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. I've got some exciting news. At least I found an interesting tool that helped me out a lot to draw perspective more quickly. And what I'm talking about is Procreate and the feature which is called perspective grids. You can see it as training wheels. It gets you really quick, gets you there really quick in establishing a believable perspective. I think I wouldn't recommend to use this all the time, but it can give you a nice insight in how perspective works, and training with it you will get used to this spatial thinking. Okay, so enough talk. Let's jump right in. For this example, I'm going to use a reference image and I'm going to load it in Procreate, and it's an office space, of course. It basically doesn't matter which photo you take. It makes sense if you're a beginner to use a somewhat perpendicular object in your reference photo. So a lot of perpendicular objects side by side. Office space will do just fine. And in the first step, we are going to analyze our basic perspective, and we're doing some easy analysis of how this perspective is set up. So the first thing we notice is that the camera looks down on this whole group of tables. So my estimate would be that the vanishing point is somewhere in this upper area of the picture, but there's an easy way to find out. We are just extending those parallel lines, and I'm thinking that those two sides should be parallel. So let's extend it out like so, and also doing the same thing with this one like so, maybe doing it more straight, maybe like so. That's still not straight. We're getting there. Doesn't have to be scientifically, but yeah, some sort of straight line it should be. And we're noticing maybe this vanishing point here is nearly roughly outside of my canvas here. So around here, I would guess. And to locate the second vanishing point here, I'm going to use this table again and draw a straight line from this side and another straight line from this side. So we can guess that, zooming out here, that those vanishing points, one may be here and one may be here. And this is also an interesting insight. Most of the time, when you're looking at perspective and you're looking at your canvas, the vanishing point actually lies outside of your canvas space. But doing those kinds of exercises, you will get a feel for where those vanishing points are sitting. Okay, so basically we've established a rough position of the vanishing points. We could guess that our horizon line is, I don't know, somewhere like here. It's also not about copying the perspective exactly or be scientific about it. It's just to get a similar structure. Okay, and as we already established, if this is our group of tables seen from the side, our camera's somewhat looking down on it. Okay, and that's already enough for a basic establishment of perspective. We can add a new layer and hide our analysis layer. And now the magic begins. We can set up the perspective grid in Procreate, which is available under Canvas, and I don't know how it's called in English. It's some kind of drawing guide, it's called. You can turn on the toggle here, and you can begin to set your own vanishing points. And this is really cool, because what happens is, in this case, I would guess, or we guess, that our vanishing point is somewhere here. Really rough estimate. And our second vanishing point, which we can just add through clicking, is somewhere, if you're following drawing this line maybe somewhere here. And I'm setting them on the same height. I'm also not caring too much about third and fourth point perspective. We're going to stick to 2-point perspective for simplification. Okay, and then the next magical thing you can do is activate supported drawing, it's called in German, I think. And this means that if we want to draw now, I'm setting this to low opacity or no opacity, no matter how we draw our line, it will always stick to that grid. So for example, if we're trying to draw a box, I don't know if this is a real box or just a real cube, and you can see how we're basically forced to draw along those perspective lines, and you can get 3D looking objects really quick. For example, like this. Okay, so that's our setup. This is our reference picture, which I'm gonna make a little bit smaller here in the top left corner. And now what we're gonna do in the first place is establish like some basic guiding box. So for example, I want to set up this box describing those groups of tables and establish it in my grid. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm establishing a line like here, like so, and I'm going to continue this line to the right, like so. And at this point, I'm not caring too much about how long this really is. I'm just setting up some simple guidelines. So for example, I want to establish that this table is, I don't know, this high. And again, this does not have to match this reference picture 100%. I just want to get the basic structure, basic perspective, and we are free to do the details however we like. So I'm establishing also this length or depth of the table and its length, like so. And for transparency reasons, I'm also drawing in this line right here. What I'm going to do next is define or capping of the basic beginning and end of the table where all of the details are following, but maybe our table is around this size right here. Then we have some kind of gap. I'm not bothering about this one too much yet. And then maybe her table begins somewhere here. And I'm drawing this in as well. Really simple. And maybe her table is this big. Seems like I've in my example, those tables are way too big, but this really doesn't matter so much. It's much more about how quickly you can get a stable basis for your for understanding the perspective and then building up on it. Okay, so we've got our basic perspective established, and now we're going to start with lowering the opacity so that this will be our guide, but it will not distract us from the real deal, from the real drawing itself. Also for this layer, I added a new layer. I will activate my supported drawing. And now the fun really begins, where we can start to draw those objects. So for example, let's start with those two desks. And I can see this is actually not a single desk, it's two desks. So we can draw them in. So for example, I'm saying this one is my first desk right here. And it is, this side like so. I'm also seeing that there's a gap in between. So our second surface I will set up like so. Okay, don't worry yet about those details like those rounded corners. We can establish them afterwards easily. What I'm seeing now is that this table has a height. So I'm going to draw in this height, and this is really easy now. With this perspective grid, I'm setting it as this height, and I can easily, finish this off like so, and this one like so. And then again for the second surface, the same thing. And I can see that those are two distinct surfaces. Okay, nice. That was pretty easy. And what I'm also seeing is that there are the legs of the table, so to say, and I can see they are built like a T. Okay, for this one, I'm gonna draw some really light guidelines where I imagine, and this is now, this line would be hidden. This line would be hidden on under the table, but I'm drawing it anyway to get a better feeling of where this leg would sit. And also I can do the same thing here. This is just my guideline where those legs would sit. Those lines can be erased afterwards. For example, this leg here, basically I wouldn't need all together, but yeah, I was in the flow of drawing it, so I drew it. Okay, so now how would this leg look like? I know that, for example, that it would go down like this, and it would go down this, while there would also be form like this. So we've got the basic table like so. We can then also draw this in right here and right here, and we have a basic table leg. Real easy. And then what you can also see, let's draw in this one as well. Like so. And what you can also see here in the picture is that there's the T part which caps it off, and this one is then also not really difficult. We can draw it like this, and like this. Same thing here. I'm guessing this is just repeats itself. And you can see, and I wasn't really picky about sizes. Once I've drawn those edge lines, this really gets easy. Drawing it like this, imagining this would wander down there, and capping it off right here. And so yeah, you can see how quickly we've got a realistic feel of the perspective of this scenery. Now let's continue. This looks good already. We are gonna continue with this box right here, which is under the table, which is a little bit inside and but lower than the table itself. So this one then is also not difficult. Maybe this would sit something like this, like here, and it goes up like here. It's not higher than the table, so I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna just bring it in here. Really no need in being 100% perfect, but you see how easy it is to add those details. And I'm also guessing mine is a little bit too small, but doesn't matter. You can also see or guess that there are some kind of legs for this cupboard as well. So I'm gonna guess again. I'm doing a real simple foot like this, continuing it on this side and adding it here, and voila, there's our table. We can then, now is not the time I think for details, but yeah, we can get crazy with this afterwards. Okay, and since this was so easy, let's continue with those cupboards as well. They seem to have the same height than this table, and they're really easy to do in the same fashion we already did this one. I'm guessing this height would be approximately correct. I'm gonna stop here for the height, and maybe mine is a little bit more longer than this one, but again, doesn't really matter. I can also see that there are two cupboards standing behind each other, and it's really easy at this point to establish those in perspective. And also noticing here that this is this frame has some depth to it, like so. Yeah, I think you really get the idea. It's really simple, and we've got this middle compartment as well, which looks like this. But I also noticed that this imaginary line goes down like this. Let's see if I'm hitting it. No, I'm not hitting it, so I'm not seeing this corner there. I don't think. No, I'm not seeing it, but that's fine as well. And you can see already there's our cupboard. Again, here are some, again, I'm drawing like a hidden line here, but I want to draw it anyway. And I know that there's a foot, looks like this, and maybe not even drawing this one. You can imagine it yourself. And you see how easy and fast you are establishing those forms. And then the second table is a real piece of cake. I will stop talking and draw this real quick. But basically it's a copy of this one. But to show you how quick this is, how quickly we can do this, I will just take some, I will just take some guidelines here so I can make them, I can easily reproduce them and align basically those lines to the first table. You don't have to do it exactly aligned, but for speed reasons or for reasons so you won't get bored seeing me draw, I will do this in a more quick fashion. Draw this table like this and also get some guidelines for the legs again, drawing them like so, like so, so I know where those legs are gonna go. This is maybe a little bit huge leg, but nonetheless it's a leg. And same thing here. I know that this leg, for example, go down here, this would go down here, this would go down here. And then I can simply add those standings. Like this, like this. Yeah, it's not really perfect, but that's also not our aim, so I'm fine with it. So yeah, there we have it. Easily done. And we can, yeah, for the completionists, I can also build the second cupboard, which we won't be seeing from a front view, only from a back view. So yeah, also is done really quick. That's basically this drawing Legos. Okay, now for the tricky part. You can very well imagine building the rest of the scenery like this. For example, we could say, okay, we want to be for the wall, we want to be here. We can see that there's some kind of pillar in the corner. This then really is like, yeah, really easy, a real piece of cake, so to say. We can draw the pillar like this, and this one like this, and then just draw the room like so. You can easily see how we can create all these perpendicular objects, but the interesting part, I think, really comes in place when we're looking at this situation here. So whereas this screen here would be easy to draw, I think, being that it's parallel, right? It's parallel to our desk, parallel to our room, everything's mathematically correct, and therefore it would be easy to draw the screen. So let's do this really quick. Let's build some stand for it, maybe like so, and like so, and like so, and it's got some form of stand that's coming out here, and we can draw a monitor that's pretty perpendicular, and we've basically done it. We would see a little bit of the top of the monitor as well. Okay, so far so good. But now there's a special challenge, and this challenge occurs when we are looking at this tilted screen, because this is not aligning to our grid we've set up. This is basically a rotated object, and you can already see it, the vanishing point of it, if we are drawing those lines. Okay, so how to do it? How to draw this rotated object, this rotated screen, with a different perspective and different vanishing points. I guess also on the same horizon line, but different vanishing points nonetheless. Okay, there's something we can do in Procreate, which comes with a price. I'm showing you what I mean. First of all, if you want to rotate an object, what happens is that those vanishing points, so for example this one and this one far off to the right, they are coming along on this horizon line. So if you want to rotate it, this vanishing point here is wandering a little bit more to the inside, whereas this vanishing point right here is wandering off the canvas to the left side. So this then would look something like this. Our monitor would be, and now that, so you can see if we are rotating it, if this monitor's the vanishing point round about here, I guess we end up something like here. And the other vanishing point is in a similar manner, wandering on the horizon line also. So for example, roughly about this one. So now if we want to draw this monitor in this new perspective setup, we can do so. we adjusted the vanishing points. And that's an interesting topic in itself. You can rotate objects by moving those vanishing points along the horizon line. And now if you want to draw it, it would be really simple, because we can just get in this line and we can draw a monitor the same way we've drawn those other objects, just moving along those correct lines, giving it a stand. And this block on the bottom to finish it off. So now here comes the tricky part with this kind of thing. This perspective grid from Procreate, as far as I understand it, applies to all layers. So if we want to go back to our initial setup of perspective lines, we would have to manually move our vanishing points back to where they were before. And to my knowledge, there's no real way to reproduce this correctly. You would just have to guesstimate, right? This one was kind of roundabout here, this one was a bit further out, and maybe this fits, but you can already see here it's not really fitting. Maybe it's something more like this, and it's the same thing here. So maybe this would be my secret prayer to the people of Procreate, or maybe a question to you guys. Is it possible to link those perspective grids to specific layers? For example, I have my basic layer set up for all the perpendicular stuff which happens here, and I've got an extra layer with an extra perspective setup for the screen. Okay, so we've come a long way, and this one is has basically fulfilled its purpose. Now we can go about fine-tuning, but I think the much more important thing here really is to at one point let go of the training wheels, and once you've established your basic perspective, you can basically turn off all the little helpers here and really get into the main purpose, and this is doing your art, right? So for example, at some point in time, we can just turn off those guidelines and start the thing we really want to draw. And then this is an interesting effect. Once you've set it up this way, it gets really easy to enhance your somewhat technical drawing with the stuff you really wanted to draw. So for example, if I want to draw some guy sitting in a chair right here, I could just simply go ahead and start drawing him sitting in his chair, of course. And our poor guy here, our stick figure, is basically waiting for his Windows update to finish, of course. And you can see here, this then gets more freestyle, right? And maybe the chair goes something like this. But you've got so many guiding lines, which makes it really easy to get in the thing you originally wanted to draw. Even though this is terrible, but don't mind me. And here he sits waiting for his Windows update, which is taking forever, and our guy in the meantime died. I think you get in which direction I'm going here. This is not meant to be like your new art style. This is just to get you a really simple perspective structure and to get you set up to draw whatever wonderful things you wish to draw. Okay, hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching and take care.